Hey everyone, how you doing today? As I teased in the daily financial news, we had a special guest this afternoon. It's my good friend Bill Allen. How you doing, buddy?
Good, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing very well. So folks that have watched the channel for over a year or so, you have seen Bill Allen before. I just want you to know what I think of Bill. I'm lucky enough to interact with hundreds of real estate experts, and I place Bill Allen at the very top, kind of my Mount Rushmore of investors. So to get him on the channel to give back is something I cherish. And I just want to thank you, Bill, for giving us some time.
Yeah, absolutely. That means a lot to me. Thanks, Michael.
I appreciate that. Well, hey, what we're going to talk about first is a topic I've always wanted to bring to the channel, but nobody else has the balls to talk about it. And you put out a post, I think it was 2 months ago now, maybe 6 weeks, where you acknowledged that, wow, all the success you've had being an entrepreneur, running the best mastermind in the country, you acknowledged that you almost lost your family. And that pulls at my heartstrings because I don't think enough people acknowledge with the whole go get them bigger, 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 that there can be a downside. And I thought, you were brave enough to have that discussion and put it out there. So why don't you talk about that moment?
Yeah, so I don't think a lot of people talk about that either, and it definitely plagues entrepreneurs probably worse than anybody. We don't even realize it actually until we're really at the end of it. I didn't even realize it going through it. Looking back at like all the signs you can see it, I was a pilot for the military, and we have these accidents that happen in the helicopter or airplanes or jets, and they talk about the Swiss cheese lining up. So like all the holes in different slices of Swiss cheese, all these holes have to line up perfectly to crash a helicopter or an airplane. So all these things have to go wrong. And so I kind of like, as you look back, you can start to see and unravel what was happening or what led to that point in time where you have to make a decision of where you are.
Right.
Is it your responsibility? Do you blame other people? What happens? So anyway, let's just start with what happened in the end. It might be easy. Basically, my wife looked at me and said, "I want a divorce." And I was like, "What?" Like, okay. And we had some struggles. We have a lot of things going on in the past few years with my son and a lot of things that was happening. And but ultimately, what I had to look back and take responsibility of was the time, like 2020 for me was a lot of just getting back and just going like full bore in the business to try to continue to grow through a pandemic and all the things that were happening. And when I look back, I was probably putting in like 400% the effort that I was the year before. And I was putting in a pretty heavy effort the year before. And I wasn't necessarily putting the priorities that came, like that I would say first. Like I was telling myself even that this is all for my family, and we're doing this, all of these things, right? That everybody says. And ultimately, that wasn't the case. I was actually really pretty driven, probably by some ego, by goals, by the team, like all the other things that we have said, things we've put out to the community and that we wanted to do. And just a real like wake up and realization of what's really important. And sometimes you get to that point where you're tested, or this event happens and you have no control of it. Like at that point, I had really no control. Like my wife was just like, I'm done. Like I'm checked out from this. And I even said, like I had been doing some, I'm part of the relationship mastermind. I was paying a coach and a program, but I didn't really commit and go all in until that moment. Like that moment, I had a decision to make. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't make the best decision immediately. Initially, I got defensive. I was really upset. And it took a couple days to really sink in that like, what is this really? Even in my head, like we were going through some struggles and challenges, and you kind of think like, okay, well, like that's an option. It could be an option, right? It's things that you think about. But I never really truly believed that either one of us would get to the point where we go that route.
Right.
And she was even talked about it for a couple of weeks before, but then she got an appointment with a lawyer.
Oh.
And I was like, that was the thing. That's when I got defensive. That's when I really kind of snapped. And I chose in the beginning, honestly, to like run away from that and say, fine, if that's what you want, then fine. And a couple of days later, I just said, you know what, I'll regret this for the rest of my life if I don't tell her how I feel, like how I truly feel. And all the things that her and like she means to me, perfectly frank, like the fam, I'll always have my boys, but but she means a ton to me. And she just didn't feel like she was being seen and heard, really. She thought that she was taking a back seat to the business. And frankly, what I realized after that was I was taking a back seat too. Like even like some of the things that I needed, work just became everything.
Right.
Like,
Everything.
and a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, like we all go through this. And in fact, now that I've been talking about it more, like just been very, pretty open with what happened, especially inside of my community. People are reaching out to me and saying, like, asking about it and wanting to talk about it. And I've been on tons of calls about it. And what I've realized is you can decide whether you want to make this decision now when you can control the outcome, or you can wait until something happens, like something, your spouse leaves you, your kids get really up, I don't know, something happens and you can't control that. And I was at a point where I really couldn't control that decision at all. Had I maybe 6 months earlier realized the route that I was going down and what could potentially happen, I probably could have taken an exit or really committed. But it took that like huge event, that big thing, to happen for me to actually realize how big of a problem it was. And I'm not 100% to blame, right? But I can only control myself and what I was doing. And honestly, now, like working together, her and I, on figuring out all that stuff, I'm starting to realize some of the things that she didn't like, and how she felt. And now she actually feels like she's seen and heard. And she just showed up at our event here in Nashville. We had our first live event in January, and she showed up she wanted to come for a night, she said, to see you in action. Like, she never wants to come to the events. She never wants to travel or do those things or meet the people that are in the mastermind group. And that was like the biggest thing for me, because I've been asking her for that for the past like 3 or 4 years. And when I finally like just let go and gave up and released control of that and just gave her what she needed, she turned around and gave me what I needed.
Yeah.
Yes, it's really amazing. So yes, people don't talk about this stuff. A lot of like public speakers and people are on tour are divorced. They go through very big heartaches because they don't put their family first. And we say like, we're building this empire, we're making this money, we're doing all these things for our family, but it means nothing in 5 years when you get there and your family's not there. So, I think it's really important, and there's a lot of like grind mentality and like just work. And honestly, we've made a ton of changes in the past few months in our personal life and what we do. And me, I'm just really saying no to a lot of stuff now, and really trying to make sure that they know that they're important.
Yeah. And again, I'd go back to your analogy of the Swiss cheese, right? And that's what I wanted people to realize, especially entrepreneurs, right? That's what the channel is here. Lots of people are, I mean, it makes me so nervous when I hear someone say, I'm doing this for my family, and then I want 1,000 units, right? And they're like going from 0 to 1,000. I'm like, yeah, 1,000's possible, but do you realize the level of commitment and just, that you don't magically get 48 hours in a day to do everything you want. So it's really important for people to realize that if the family is truly that important, use it as a governor. It should always be, there are times, I guess, where you juggle it, but if you just give lip service and your action is different, you will eventually end up with all the holes lining up in a shocking event like your wife schedules an appointment with an attorney. That's your wake up call. It's like, whoops, I guess I need to pay attention now.
Yeah, it's, I think what happens is we get into that and we don't have the agreement in place from both parties. And I remember when I started this business, I sat down with my wife and I said, hey, I'm not going to be available. Like in the morning, I'm going to be working. I'm going to go work my full-time job for the Navy flying. When I come home, I'm going to, help put our son to bed. We had one boy at the time. Help put him to bed, read him a story, and hang out with you guys and have dinner. And then I'm going to go back in the office for a couple hours. And it's going to be like a year while I get my business up and going. She said, okay, no problem. And that's what she signed up for. And then after that, we grew really fast and got big. And then it became like a drug almost, of just like, it's because I feel like whether, like, I know that the masculine man like myself, like a masculine energy, and the feminine energy, the masculine really is driven by purpose, like purpose and mission. And I've been reading and learning a lot about this. And so a lot of times we'll put that above and beyond maybe our family or our spouse or other people or things like that. And you can become like so ego driven and purpose driven and mission driven that you forget about everything else, or it becomes secondary and you don't even notice. Like, you really don't notice. I thought that I was giving my family what I needed, but it's not. I read a quote the other day in a book that I was reading about this. It said, it's not the amount of time that you spend, but it's the quality of the time that you spend with that person. Yeah. And so I was spending a lot of time with my family, but I wasn't there. Like, it was a shell of me. I was thinking about other ideas and other plans, and I wasn't unplugged. I couldn't figure out how to unplug.
Right.
And so now when I'm with my family, I turn everything off. Like, I had to be a little bit late to this because my son is going to the hospital right now with my wife. My wife has to take my son to the ER. And I had a choice when my wife called me, and I could tell that she was upset and she's scared and a little bit anxious. And my son she's getting ready to take him to the ER. I know she can handle it. She can put him in the car. I work 2 minutes from here, and I had an appointment right before this. So I decided to leave that appointment and not stay on that call, get off that call, drive to my house, just spend 5 or 10 minutes with my phone not next to me, just spend the time with them, get them ready, help her out the door, give her a hug, give her a kiss, say you got this, and then come back to the office and continue work. I could have stayed here.
Yes.
And I think the old me would have stayed here and said, she's got that, no problem, she can handle it. But the new me is like, no, she just needs 5 minutes of support. And that's what she needed. And that's it. And then I can come back and I can get my work done. And she knows that they're the top priority. Like, she knew that I was busy. She knew that she didn't expect me to come back and come home. And it took me maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes. And I could, if I missed something, I missed something. Like, it's,
yeah, exactly.
Those are the little things. The little things are what we miss as bigger picture thinkers, like visionaries and stuff. We don't live in the moment. We live in the future. And a lot of times we have to, figure out how to live more in today.
Yeah. One thing you brought up that I want other entrepreneurs to hear, right? You checked and got validation from your wife when this all started, right? I'm going to work again, year, full agreement. She may have been uncomfortable at different times through the year, but she's like, okay, I signed up for this, clear. It doesn't sound like you went back and revalidated and, oh, honey, we went from this, we're going to go here. Because you've had an amazing track record when you look at it from an entrepreneur's standpoint, but you forgot or missed, or whatever you want to acknowledge, revalidating with the spouse, with your wife and your family as your boys grew. And now they're of age where you got to validate with them because you are important. You're the dad. Yeah.
And you know how we validate that stuff? It's like, okay, I'm the coach of the soccer team. I'm also the den leader for his Cub Scout troop. I am I raise money for the Cub Scouts. I'm the committee chair for fundraising. I do all of these other things, right? And so when I do that and I take the boy, I pick him up, I put him to bed, I do all that stuff. Like, that was my validation of like, I'm a good father, I'm a good husband because I do all this stuff. This is exactly what my wife needs. And you know what I lost in that was number one, I lost a lot of what I needed. So like socialization, friends, travel, like things that I love to do that fill me up. Yep. And then I also lost the fact that like, I'm important, my wife's important, and my kids are important, and really in that order, I think. And so I wasn't pouring back into the relationship. I was just being a dad and expecting that is what she needed. So like, now we go on a date night a week. It's like non-negotiable. We figure out, okay. And it's not a date night like 7:30. It's a date night. Like, I pretty much dip out of here at like 3:00 and we go do something all day. That's amazing. And really do some cool stuff together we just went to Disney for a week together, just the two of us. And so we do trips like that. So we're really trying to figure out how to reconnect as a couple, because one of my new coaches in life has said to me, she said, why do you treat this person like they're lower than the kids? Because they came first, like they were here first. You and your spouse were there first, and then the kids came, and we give everything to the kids, and we have nothing left for each other and nothing left for ourselves. So I don't think it's selfish to say that like everybody says, you need to put your oxygen mask on first. And it's true. Like, you really have to take care of yourself. And I wasn't taking care of myself either. And I'm self-sacrificial. I just muscle through everything, and I don't ever actually let myself feel things and live in the present. So learning how to do that as an entrepreneur, that's the challenge. Like, how do you unplug? Because you have all these ideas, you love building businesses and all these other things. And when you're home, you're just stuck at work. My wife would say, like, you'll come home, but you won't leave that at the office. And like when you walk out of the office door, when it was at the house, I actually moved all my office stuff out of my house. She said, you don't leave work in the office. You come out here and there's work, and then you come home and you're on the computer and all this stuff. And I didn't know how much it was hurting her until we got, because she didn't share. She wouldn't say that that's the thing.
Right.
That's a problem. So yeah.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this first of 2 segments with you, what would you tell the entrepreneur that's had some success, it's got a year or 2 track record, and just going full gung ho for 2021 or 2022, whenever they're watching this? What would you be their words of advice? Let's assume they're married with kids, just as you are, so they don't end up with that Swiss cheese with the significant other, getting an appointment with an attorney.
I think the biggest thing that I'll say is you've learned how to spot an opportunity. So opportunities are everywhere, all over. You could probably look at a retail store right now and determine how to systemize and automate that thing and have them make more money. And they're like everybody's looking at you for opportunities and pulling on you for things to do. And they're out there. I think you really have to figure out how to focus and how to say no to that stuff. And then really like look at your time and look at the amount of energy that you're going to put in and what the output is. And just be careful. Like, be careful getting too far. Like, the second that you start seeing the signs, it's probably getting to the point where it's too late. And I'd say the relationship that you have with your spouse and your family is a lot harder to repair than building a business up like you have. So you get into this problem where you start seeing success, and it really does become a drug. So I just say be careful with it. I mean, I don't know who said the quote, but like, if you show me someone's calendar, I'll show you their priorities, right? And it's like, just look at that. If your calendar is jam-packed and it's all work, then you know what your priority is, even though what's coming out of your mouth is saying family, spouse, kids, things like that. So take the time. And I'll say the biggest challenge that you need to figure out is to unplug from the future thinking and figure out how to get in the day-to-day. Like, how do you live in the now and actually appreciate the now? Because that was the biggest challenge for me for like 7 years. And I could finally do it. And my advice is sit in an ice bath and for about 10 minutes, and you'll appreciate it now, and you won't think about anything else. So I take cold showers in the morning now for 3 minutes, and I sit in the ice bath about once a week, and that resets me.
Clarity. I'm thinking about right now. Well, Bill, thank you very much for this. This is fun. And again, thank you for being vulnerable. Thanks for just telling us how it is. And I wish you nothing but luck.
Yeah. Hey, one more thing. All you see out there from all the other gurus, entrepreneurs, people like that, is the highlight reel. So that's the highlight reel. The real life is probably not being shared. So Michael, I appreciate you having me on here to share some of that stuff. And I think like when you yourself can be vulnerable and understand that you're going to help more people, like more people, hopefully somebody sees this and says, oh crap, I actually am getting to that point. I need to make a change. So,
well, I that's why this is why I wanted the video. I hope there's one person out there that their Swiss cheese is starting to line up and we can prevent it from the crash. So Bill, how can people follow you, be a part of your universe and your circle?
They can go to sevenfigureflipping.com. I pretty much am there. We have an event called Flip Hacking Live every October. I'd love to see you guys there.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you very much, buddy.
Thanks.